Yes, welcome back. Just read this Mikoyan-Gurevich, Mikhail Isofovich Gurevich, designer of the MiG aircraft. But there's another one called Artem Mikoyan. This is why they call Mikoyan. Mikoyan-Gurevich Design Bureau or MiG. I have to read about it. And Marcel Dassault, maybe this French engineering making the French fighter jets. We have to read about it. Yes, Mikoyan-Gurevich Design Bureau or MiG. Let's read about the MiG-23. I like to read about. I have read about the MiG-31 and MiG-25. Now I'll read about MiG-21 after this. I think they still fly around like in Syria, the Syria Air Force have this, I think.
Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-23. MiG-23, a Soviet Air Force MiG-23 Modrol fighter aircraft, M-Series, fighter bomber, B-Series, national origin Soviet Union manufacturer Mikoyan-Gurevich / Mikoyan first flight 10 June 1967 introduction 1970 status in limited service primary users Soviet Air Force, historical, Syrian Air Force Indian Air Force, historical, Bulgarian Air Force, historical. See operators below. Produced 1967-1985 number build 5,047 variants Mikoyan MiG-27. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-23, Russian, 2-3, NATO reporting name, Flogger, ISA variable geometry fighter aircraft. Designed by the Mikoyan-Gurevich Design Bureau in the Soviet Union. It is a third-generation jet fighter, alongside similar Soviet aircraft such as the Su-17 fighter. It was the first Soviet fighter to field a look-down forward/shoot-down radar, the RP-23 Sapphire, and one of the first to be armed with beyond visual range missiles. Production started in 1969 and reached large numbers with over 5,000 aircraft built, making it the most produced variable sweep-wing aircraft in history. The MiG-23 remains in limited service with some export customers. The basic design was also used as the basis for the Mikoyan MiG-27, a dedicated ground attack variant. Among many minor changes, the MiG-27 replaced the MiG-23's nose-mounted radar system with an optical panel holding a laser designator and a TV camera. Development. The MiG-23's predecessor, the MiG-21, was fast and agile, but limited in its operational capabilities by its primitive radar, short range, and limited weapons load, restricted in some aircraft to a pair of short-range R3/K-13, AA-2 ATOL, air-to-air missiles. Work began on a replacement for the MiG-21 in the early 1960s. The new aircraft was required to have better performance and range than the MiG-21, while carrying more capable avionics and weapons including beyond visual range, BVR, missiles. A major design consideration was takeoff and landing performance. The Soviet Air Force, VVS, demanded that aircraft have a much shorter takeoff run. Low-level speed and handling was also to be improved over the MiG-21. Maneuverability was not an urgent requirement. This led Mikoyan to consider two options: lift jets, to provide an additional lift component, and variable geometry wings, which had been developed by SAGI for both clean sheet aircraft designs and adaptations of existing designs. 1. 2. The first option, for an aircraft fitted with lift jets, resulted in the 23-01, also known as the MiG-23 PD. Mikoyan-Gurevich lift jet, was a tailed delta of similar layout to the smaller MiG-21 but with two lift jets in the fuselage. This first flew on the 3rd of April, 1967, but it soon became apparent that this configuration was unsatisfactory, as the lift jets became useless dead weight once airborne. 3. 4. Work on the second strand of development was carried out in parallel by a team led by Dr. Andreev, with MiG directed to build a variable geometry prototype, the 23-11 in 1965. 5. A Polish MiG-23 Park. The 23-11 featured variable geometry wings which could be set to angles of 16, 45 and 72 degrees, and it was clearly very promising. The maiden flight of 2311 took place on 10 June 1967, flown by the famous MiG test pilot Alexander Vasilievich Fedotov, who set the absolute altitude record in 1977 in a Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-25. 6. 6 more flight prototypes and 2 static test prototypes were prepared for further flight and system testing. All featured the Tumansky R27-300 turbojet engine with a thrust of 77 kN, 17,300 lbf. The order to start series production of the MiG-23 was given in December 1967. The first production MiG-23S, N80 or reporting name Flogger A, took to the air on the 21st of May 1969, with Fedotov at the controls. 7. The General Dynamics F-111 and McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II were the main Western influences in the MiG-23. The Soviets, however, wanted a much lighter, single-engined fighter to maximize agility. Both the F-111 and the MiG-23 were designed as fighters, but the heavy weight and inherent stability of the F-111 turned it into a long-range interdictor and kept it out of the fighter role. 8. The MiG-23's designers kept the MiG-23 light and agile enough to dogfight with enemy fighters. Design. Armament. The armament carried by the MiG-23 changed as new models underwent development. The initial production variant, the MiG-23S, was fitted with the S-21 fire control system borrowed from the MiG-21S/SM. Based on the RP-22SM SAP-21 radar with an ASP PFD-21 lead computing gun sight, it could carry only 4R3/K13, AA-2 Atoll, air-to-air missiles, typically 2 SAR-3RS and 2 IR-3SS, in addition to a Gryazov ship Unovgysha-23L autocannon. In the ground attack role, the MiG-23 Scout carried 2 Kh-23, as 7 carry, radio guidance air-to-surface missiles, 2 to 4 UB-16 rocket pods with S-5 rockets, S-24 rockets or up to 2,000 kilograms, 4,400 pound, of various bomb types. 9. The MiG-23 edition 1971, equipped with the SAP-23L radar and TP-23 infrared search and track, IRST, could fire the new BVR-23, AA-7 Apex, missile, although only the R-23 SR variant. However, the SAP-23L was considered unreliable and lacked look-down forward/shoot-down capability. 10. MiG-23M Flogger B armed with R-23 and R-60 missiles. The MiG-23M, the definitive first-generation variant of the fighter, was equipped with the improved SAP-23D look-down forward/shoot-down radar and could carry a pair of R-23 missiles, either the R-23 SR or R-23 TIR variants, and a pair of R-60, AA-8 AFID, missiles. Starting with aircraft number 3201, the APU-60-2 double-rail launcher was introduced, allowing the MiG-23M to carry 4 R-60 missiles. The MiG-23 could carry up to 3,000 kilogram, 6,600 pound, in bombs and rockets, and from aircraft number 3701 onward it could fire the Kh-23 and Kh-23M air-to-surface missiles. Lastly, all VVS MiG-23MS had the ability to mount a single nuclear bomb via a special adapter under the fuselage, either the 10 kiloton RN-24 or the 30 kiloton RN-40.11. In the second-generation MiG-23ML, a new SUV-2ML weapons system allowed the aircraft to carry both tips of R-23 missiles simultaneously. The typical loadout was an R-23R on the starboard wing pylon and an R-23T on the port wing pylon. Besides other ordnance, including a single nuclear bomb, the MiG-23ML could also carry two UPK-23-250 23mm gun pods on the underwing pylons. Starting in 1981, the MiG-23MLA could carry the improved Vimpel R-24R forward/T missiles. 12. The final fighter variant, the MiG-23MLD, could also carry the improved R-24R forward/T missiles in addition to a pair of B-8M120 round rocket pods firing S-8 rockets. The Kh-23 forward/Kh-23M air-to-surface missile, or a single RN-24 or RN-40 nuclear bomb. The MiG-23MLD's maximum bomb load was 2,000 kilograms, 4,400 pound. With a standard loadout comprising 4 FAB 500 kilograms general-purpose bombs, GP, or ZAB 500 napalm bombs. Other configurations included 16 FAB 100 kilograms GP bombs carried on 4 ejector racks, 4 FAB 250 kilogram GP bombs, or 2 RBK 500 cluster bombs. 13. Cockpit. MiG-23 cockpit in high-resolution KM1 ejection seat. The MiG-23 cockpit was considered an improvement over previous Soviet fighters as it was more ergonomic in its layout. However, the pilot still had a high workload, having to manipulate switches and monitor gauges, compared to more modern aircraft with HOTAS controls. The instrument panel did feature a white stripe to serve as a visual aid for centering the control column during an out-of-control situation. 14. 15. To prevent the pilot from exceeding a 17-degree angle of attack, the control column incorporated a knuckle wrapper which would strike the pilot's knuckles as the limit ways approached. 14. Cockpit visibility was also somewhat poor in the MiG-23, although the view straight ahead was superior compared to the MiG-21. 15. In particular, visibility was poor looking to the rear, partially due to the ejection seat which wrapped around the pilot's head, requiring the pilot to lean forward to look to the side or behind. To assist with looking directly behind the pilot, the cockpit was fitted with a mirror or periscope embedded in the middle rail of the canopy, similar to the one on the MiG-17. With an infinity focus, the periscope provided a clear view of behind the plane, but did not have a wide field of view. 14. 15. The MiG-23's ejection seat, the Kilometer 1, was built with extreme altitude and speed in mind, leg stirrups, shoulder harness, pelvic D-ring, and a 3-parachute system. Engaging the ejection seat could take a long time, as the pilots had to place their feet in the stirrups, let go of the control column, grab the 2 trigger handles, squeeze and lift them. The first parachute, the size of a large handkerchief, was deployed out of a telescoping rod which would pop out of the top back-off seat as it started to clear the windscreen windbreak area. It was supposed to help rotate the seat into view and blast and stabilize into a flight path that would take it above and behind the vertical stabilizer. As the first chute and rod separated from the seat, a larger drop parachute deployed to slow down the seat, allowing the deployment of the main parachute. if engaged at low altitudes. The seat included a barometric isolament that allowed the drop chute to separate more quickly. One problem with the Kilometer 1 was that it was not a 00 ejection seat, and would work at a minimum speed of only 90 knots. 16. Starting with the MiG-23 edition 1971, the MiG-23 replaced the head-down radar scope with an ASP-23 gun sight forward/head-up display (HUD), onto which data from the radar was displayed. 10. This was updated in the MiG-23 MLA with the ASP-17 ML gun sight forward/HUD. 12. Because information from the radar had to fit on the combining glass of the HUD, the amount of space that could be scanned was limited to a relatively thin slice. This required that the fighter be flown very close to the target's altitude and well ahead of it to be picked up, necessitating good ground-controlled interception. GCI Instructions. 17. Israeli pilots who flew captured versions of the MiG-23 found it relatively easy to use. 13. Control surfaces. The MiG-23 was among the first Soviet aircraft to feature variable geometry wings. These were hydraulically controlled by means of a small lever set beneath the throttle in the cockpit. There were three main sweep angles that were set by the pilot for different levels of flying. The first, with the wings fully spread at 16 degrees, was used when cruising at below Mach 7 or when taking off and landing. Putting the wings at mid-spread of 45 degrees was used for basic fighter maneuvering, as well as cruising at high speeds or making low-altitude intercepts. Moving the wings to fully swept at 72 degrees was reserved for making high-altitude intercepts or high-speed dashes at low altitudes. 18. MiG-23 wing sweep mechanism. The wings were not fitted with ailerons but used spoilers to control rolling when the wings were at 16 degrees and 45 degrees angles. In addition to spoilers, the wings were fitted with trailing edge flaps and leading edge slats to try to give the fighter a short takeoff and landing performance. 18. Although there was a gauge in the cockpit showing the position of the wings when they were in motion, and the Mach limit for each position, there was none to indicate weight was the optimum wing position for the prevailing flight condition. 19. Two ailerons controlled pitch and roll, in the latter case working in conjunction with wing control surfaces when the wings were not fully swept back. In addition to a large vertical stabilizer, which also stored the brake parachute for landings, the MiG-23 had a ventral fin to improve directional stability at high speeds. During takeoff and landing, the fin hinged sideways when the landing gear was extended to prevent it striking the ground. 15. 18. Starting with the edition 1971 model, the MiG-23's wings, known as Edition 2, had their surface area increased by 20%, necessitating the positions be changed to 18 degrees, 47 degrees 40, and 74 degrees 40, though for convenience the cockpit indicators and manuals retained the original labeling. A dogtooth extension was added but the leading edge slats were removed to simplify manufacturing. However, this proved to exacerbate the MiG-23's stability issues at high AOA and made takeoff and landings more difficult. 10. The definitive Edition 3 wing design, introduced with the MiG-23M, retained the dimensions of the Edition 2 but added back in the leading edge slats. 11. A strengthening of the wing pivot in the MiG-23 MLD allowed the addition of a fourth wing sweep position of 33 degrees, which was intended to reduce turn radius and allow for rapid deceleration during dogfights. However, with the wings at the 33 degrees position, the MiG-23 MLD was much more difficult to handle and suffered from poor acceleration. Moving the wings to this position was primarily reserved for experienced MiG-23 pilots, while combat manuals continued to emphasize the 45 degrees position. 13. Engine. The MiG-23 original engine was a 27,500 pound, 12,500 kilograms,